Hello and welcome to Revolutionise Your Love Life. Do you want to know more about love relationships, what makes them work, how to create the one of your best dreams? Do you want to be in a really healthy, juicy love relationship? In these podcasts, we will give ideas and practical advice to light your way. Whether you're looking for a love partner, already in a relationship you wish could be better, or leaving one that has run its course, there will be something to inspire, empower and support you. Revolutionise Your Love Life is a fortnightly podcast where you will access the knowledge and wisdom of love experts and relationship coaches from across the world to help you find true fulfillment in love. I am your host, Heather Garbutt. Welcome. So we're here today to talk about control versus control freak characteristics. Can you give me some definitions, please, Colette?
Yeah, not a problem at all. There's a massive difference between the two, and it pretty much all stems from the intention behind the controlling behaviours that we see. So it's so important to figure out which camp somebody might well be in, because obviously that can drastically change the landscape that we're operating in. It can build in some safeguarding concerns as well to make sure that any client is shielded from actual control behaviour rather than just control freak behaviour. And so the difference will be if, for instance, somebody is controlling, then it's more about you'll do what I said because I said it. Good doesn't give the client any space to think for themselves. It's I'm dictating to you what you will do and you will do it without question. And becoming affronted or indeed angry when their rules aren't complied with or their demands aren't complied with. On the flip side, then you've got the control freak who can often sound like they're coming across the same way, but it's about their emotional state and them needing a response, often for their own purposes, and sort of more taking it along the lines of, why haven't they responded? We sent that email yesterday, or we sent that email this morning and it was marked urgent. Why haven't they dealt with it yet? And it's often from a state of panic. There's almost a frenzy on their side that we obviously filter and don't let anybody else know is going on to shield them and their privacy and where they're at emotionally. But the control freak side of it is about promptness, but stemming from a place of, I just want this done, whether for their sake or the kids' sake or just generally they want life to move on for everybody. So there is a massive difference between the two in that sense. And it's so important to figure out, like I said, which one we're working with, whether that's with the client or our opponent.
Yeah, I can really see that.
And it is opponent when it's controlling. I avoid that word normally, but when it's control, it's armours on, we're here defending. Ideally, we'd be collaborating, but you can't collaborate with a controller.
No, you're getting into narcissistic realms there. And
absolutely.
Yeah, that's a whole other ball game.
Oh, yeah. And a whole other podcast.
Yeah. So if we're thinking about the control freak, they're not really able to see what might be happening at the other end.
No, there's very little thought given to the fact that perhaps they've just not seen the email yet. They've been doing something else. It's almost, what else could they possibly be doing? This is such a big part of our lives. It's so important. How have you not prioritised that as number one? It's particularly when the other side, so their ex, is spending time with the children. You sometimes just have to remind them, well, you'd really rather they were looking after the kids or doing the homework or just having a nice time than reading an email that we sent this morning when the kids weren't with them. So there's often reminding clients that people have other priorities, rightly or wrongly. People do have other priorities. It does make that client quite the dream to work with because we can keep up with them. We've got a big team who are able to jump whenever they say and to give the advice that they need promptly and efficiently. But when it comes to other people, so whether that's experts, exes, or the ex's solicitor, who may well have been in court, we just don't know, it's when they're chomping at the bit, they sometimes forget not everybody's doing the same thing and that there are other things on the to-do list. It's also important to make sure that when we're giving deadlines, for instance, that it's a deadline that's warranted, because if we just go around giving arbitrary deadlines, one, it becomes very boy who cried wolf, like what are you panicking for? And it has less impact. But also it encourages people to shoot from the hip rather than making informed, well thought through decisions. And it's so much more important that they take the time to think, and often advising a client just to slow down and give them that space, because if you do, you may well get something more constructive. If they responded to an email perhaps angrily or were upset by it, particularly if they're operating from victim mindset, then forcing a response out of them in 5 minutes isn't going to yield anything other than a ranty email that they've probably filtered swear words out of. Whereas if you give them a day, literally let them sleep on it, they will no doubt come back with something much more constructive. They may not agree, but they might. And they're more likely to agree with you if they've slept on it than if they've responded within 5 minutes flat because we were jumping up and down.
Yeah, and it's that more likely to just smack back somehow rather than consider. I'm getting that.
Yeah, even if we're not smacking in the first place, they might feel backed into a corner and lash out. We might not be doing anything other than making an offer, but if they weren't emotionally ready for that offer or to make one in return, they'll be backed into a corner and lash out, even if we're not throwing any punches ourselves.
Yeah, and I guess at those times as well, it's really quite hard to hold into the intention.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring them back, reminding them who we want to be through this divorce and that you want to look back on it with pride. If you end up in a position where you've chased to the point where either your ex just doesn't want to speak to you anymore when originally they felt able to, or if they start feeling that they are being controlled because they're not recognising it's control freak rather than control, it can be really damaging to any future relationship. And that wasn't your intention. That wasn't part of what we discussed at the start. And it can have inadvertent negative consequences.
Yeah.
More often than not.
Yeah, I think I'd like to say a bit about conscious uncoupling here.
Oh, absolutely. It massively feeds into that.
Yeah, because you look, when you're going through conscious uncoupling, you look at how your behaviour affects your ex and how their behaviour affects you and how you react. And you own, firstly, your behaviour and also your response behaviour. And that way, everything can be calmed. We do a clearing of the air where it's possible, where it's not control freak meeting really uncomfortably with controller.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't work. If you have a controller, they'll never accept responsibility.
No.
But sometimes the control freak person will actually come to the point where they're going to make an act of golden repair.
I love that phrase. That's a sensational phrase. And how is that?
Well, it can come about in lots of ways. It's in the interests of fairness quite often, because sometimes the law isn't really fair in moral terms, even if it is in legal terms.
Yeah.
And it can be financial, so to make sure that both parties can have a home for their kids going forwards, or a new start in life. Or it can be, well, okay, you can have the family dog. Those sorts of things. That those small generosities, I think, can pop that bubble of antagonism.
Absolutely. And it's a bit like we spoke last time about the nuisance payment. From the client's perspective, it's a nuisance, but from their ex, is that the golden repair? Was that the key? To resolving this sensibly, rather than spending that money and more on more hostility through the court system. I mean, not through lawyers. We're not here to make it worse. The court system inevitably will, though.
Yes, it does.
It's there to achieve that goal.
Yeah.
And it's not about the journey with the court system. It's about the goal.
Yeah, and it can be quite cold-blooded.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about gaslighters and liars. I know we only just want to talk to this a little bit, but it's important. I know the narcissistic behaviours come under this category, and I've got the other podcasts around 60 to 66, I think, in my episode list. So how do gaslighters and liars show up?
So gaslighters often, when they're speaking to me in particular, assign that filter between them and their ex, who they used to gaslight and would probably quite like to gaslight. When they're going through the filter that is me or their ex's lawyer, they often go on the charm offensive. They're trying to sweeten me. They're trying to make themselves look like the best person ever. Like, why wouldn't I want to agree to everything they're saying, and all those kinds of things, because they want me to disbelieve what my client has told me, with or without evidence. Often the client has actual written evidence of it, which is even more almost entertaining then to see the gaslighter coming at me thinking that I'm going to believe everything they're saying, and of course I'm going to tell my client to accept your really unfavourable offer. Why wouldn't I? Like, that's just, honestly, it's bizarre. But then acting as that shield between the client and the gaslighter as well is such an important part of the role, because without me that gaslighting would continue, either because the client hadn't identified it yet, or that they're just so downtrodden by it and so almost broken by it that they would continue to believe what they're being told. And sometimes, even with my filter in place, when the gaslighter is speaking to my client almost through me, it doesn't have any impact on me. I send it to the client with my advice, like cushioning it, explaining where I think the gaslighting is coming up. It can still have that impact. It's almost a reflex for them that they're so used to dealing with that gaslighting in a certain way from that victim mindset. They then respond in the old ways.
Yeah.
They come to me, we rejig it. They come to you, you rejig it, and then they make a more sound, mature decision that's better for them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And there's so much. I mean, you are very, very discerning to be able to see that coming. Because there's so much that's being talked about in old-fashioned couple counselling models where nobody takes sides. So a person who is controlling is given the same credence as somebody who's very downtrodden.
Yeah.
And quite often the downtrodden person has got some sort of mental health diagnosis.
Yeah.
And that's because they've been controlled and oppressed.
Yeah.
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 So,
Often for decades. We're not talking 10 minutes. It's long standing, and often it's all they've known, even for the majority of their life. If they married young and they're now divorcing, when they're heading towards retirement or slightly younger, then they've known it for almost half their life. Yeah. How else would they function as an adult? That's what they've learned.
yeah. So they've lost their autonomy, their personal authority and sovereignty, and given that into the hands of their ex.
Yeah.
So you have quite a task.
Yeah, as does their entire support network, which is where it's crucial that it's not just me from the legal side of it, because at the end of the day, I'm here to get them through a legal process. Now, obviously, they're a human being. This isn't a corporate deal. It's not just about, I'm here to get you through this process. Don't talk to me about that kind of thing. Like we've said before, I've got to know where they're at emotionally, because it'll affect how I work, how I operate, how quickly sometimes we operate. There's many a time I've had to say during a phone call, if a client is pretty much at the point where they're crying so hard they can't breathe, which does happen, especially when it's something as emotional as being like recovering from a gaslighting partner. Many a time I've just said, right, we're going to end the call there, go take a deep breath, make a cup of tea, go out into the garden, whatever you need to do, come back when you're ready. Now they're thinking, but we're penciled in for an hour, you're not going to be free. And I'm like, I normally am, because I normally build in that extra time just in case that exact thing happens. Because the gaslighter would quite like if I then said to the client, I actually just need you to get through what you were going to tell me, because they're telling me that from entirely the wrong mindset.
Yeah. And I've got a lot of respect for your stance on this, because a lot of lawyers don't do this. It's my experience that the lawyers can sometimes be as oppressive as the exes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have some unfortunate examples in writing as well of that. I've been accused of being a mouthpiece for expressing my clients' concerns about their ex's behaviour. Provable behaviour as well. It wasn't hearsay. Obviously, we do have to operate often on hearsay. Many gaslighters and similar characteristics are smart enough, if you will, not to put things in writing. But this instance, we actually had written proof, and I was told to stop being a mouthpiece for my client and to actually give them some advice. But because it wasn't the advice they wanted and it wasn't achieving what they wanted, the solicitor came back and said that in an open letter, which we obviously presented to the judge at the relevant stage, and it was very unfortunate for them. But yeah, they use all sorts of intimidating bullying tactics. What's often difficult to tell is whether that's how that solicitor operates anyway, which I would be very surprised at, especially when they've been practicing for a long time. It's often a matter of sussing out whether that's coming from their client and whether they are being a mouthpiece for their client and just don't want to admit it, or whether they're feeling really stressed out by their client. They just want this done. The quickest way to get this done is just everybody kowtow to what their client's demanding. Actually, that's not the right answer, though. So somebody somewhere has got to stand up and say no. And we empower both of us, our clients, to be in that position to say no.
Yeah, absolutely. We might look like sort of 5'4" little women, but we've got sprung spines to
Oh,
build.
absolutely. And I'm only 5'4" with my heels on. So yeah. But often clients hear me on the phone, like we often do the initial chat on the phone or via Teams, and they can't tell how tall I am. They meet me in person, they go, oh goodness, right, okay. And they have to do a quick rejig because they weren't expecting me to be 5'1.5". I do claim that half. But yeah, it's more about the personality and having the backbone and the training and the experience to handle people like that. so that we can empower clients of any height to deal with them robustly. Absolutely.
You're a woman of significant stature.
Emotionally and intellectually, we both are, yes.
Thank you, you're very kind. So how can people find you?
So I'm pretty active on Instagram and LinkedIn, so clients are more than welcome to find me and find out more, because there is some information on there. On Instagram, which is Colette.familylawyer, Colette with one L, two T's, one L. But then also on LinkedIn, which is Colette Bane, should be pretty much the only one on there. And then if not, if you just want to pick up the phone or drop me a WhatsApp message, it's 07384 460636.
I should say how they can find me too.
You absolutely should, yes.
I'm Heather Garbutt, love and relationship coach. You can find me on heather@heathergarbutt.com. There's a booking link there. Or you can just call me on 07808 776 150. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Revolutionise Your Love Life. I'd like to know what has been your biggest takeaway from this conversation. Do take a minute and share this with us and visit us on our Facebook page. You can connect with me personally on my email at heather@heathergarbutt.com. If you can think of someone who will benefit from listening to this podcast, please do share it with them. If you have any feedback on how I can improve it, please do reach out to me, as I'm always keen to learn more. Thank you so much again for listening, and we'll meet again on the next episode of Revolutionise Your Love Life.